Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Your American Experiment on the air with the one and only Dr. Greg Brannon. I'm Bill LuMaye. Nice to have you along. It was a busy week, the past week. Dr. Greg Brannon, it's good to see you. By the way, it's brought to you by the Youth Institute and Metagenics. I'm not sure where to start, but it seems as though the Democratic field for presidents has gotten larger. Joe Biden has joined the race. What do you think?
I have a question. Who's not running on the Democratic side?
Yes, that's actually a good question. It's a pretty large field, and all of them seem to be, other than Joe Biden, seem to be very far left.
Yeah, and Joe's obviously a hypocrite and a fraud. All this creepy Joe stuff's real. It's one after another, after another, after another. But they're going to believe because he'll have the money to outspend that. The sad part is I wish we didn't run this on personality. We ran this on true constitutional aspects of that. And we'll go over that a little bit today on Constitution, on who could vote, not to vote.
Yes.
But the idea is these people on both parties, I'm not here to hammer both, but they use the Constitution when it helps them, but they run away from it when it hurts them.
Right.
And that's the frustrating part with me, because I'm reading a beautiful book right now on true liberty with Christian aspects of it. And it's just like, because what true liberty really is, and what it really means spiritually. Because I want to go over a couple things today. We have people that discuss their faith are hammered by the left, but yet people on the right bring anything up. The mayor, Buttigieg from what's his name? The guy
running for president.
Yeah,
the guy who will be out relatively quick.
Yes, yeah.
I forget his name.
It was just funny. From where's he from? He's from South Bend, Indiana, right?
Yeah.
But he attacks Pence on his faith. So Franklin Graham just brings it up.
Yes.
Oh, don't you dare bring it up. It's like, it's okay. Then you have Bernie Sanders and Feinstein. I forgot the name of the lady that was up for an appellate court justice, and they said, your Catholic faith bothers me. I don't like your dogma.
A test of religion.
So this is like, whoa, the hypocrite. So how we got to this with Joe Biden is again, Joe is, according to this, he's the most moderate. But I hate that. That's Hegelianism. He's not a moderate. He's a progressive.
Yes, he is.
So when you say he's the most moderate of the crew, the answer is yes. It just says how far left it is. We have a governor in our state who literally vetoed a bill that would save a baby's life if the baby's born alive.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And in fact,
it's becoming more the norm of the Democratic Party.
That's what's so crazy. So I don't want to hear, what moderate is. Let's just get back to what things are constitutional. Do I believe? I do believe his past will catch up on him. I don't believe he'll win. That's my opinion.
Right.
The Democrats, the very interesting thing with the Democrats is the superdelegates. And if you have the superdelegates, you can't lose.
Right.
I mean, even before the primary in California and other big states, no matter what Bernie won, he could not have beaten Hillary. Okay.
Right.
So if Joe gets the superdelegates, the answer is yes.
He'll win that primary.
Yeah.
He'll become the Democratic presidential
nominee. I still think President Trump, even the things we'll talk about later on it, I think Donald Trump destroys whoever runs.
Well, just from your perspective, I've read some news stories on Joe Biden, and that I think even was Chris Christie, who's not a very conservative Republican either, but said, I think Joe, he could give him a run with the blue collar folk. The economy seems to be, I know we can get into some of it, but overall, compared to what we had for 8 years, is certainly in a better place.
The standard they use, even though it's rigged,
yes,
the CPI and the indexes and all these kind of things, this is the best economy in 50 to 70 years.
Yes.
Okay, under Obama, it was the highest unemployment in African-American males in history, okay, in the 20th century. You have, so the answer is, without a doubt, I do believe part of it's fallacy. I believe part of it's fiat currency. We can discuss that stuff later. But the bottom line, Bill, is this: economy is going in a very good. It's maybe a bubble, but we'll discuss that later. But the thing about this, Bill, is this: is that the best they have as a 76-year-old and an 80-year-old? Is that the best they have?
And white.
Yeah,
and that means a lot to Democrats.
I know.
It really does. The others seem to be bordering on Looney Tunes. Bernie Sanders was asked about whether or not he would allow the Boston bomber to vote because this is his train he's riding along with Kamala Harris. And he said, yeah, people do bad things. They're punished, but they should be given the right, as he put it, for our democracy. It's important that he be given the right to vote, even though this Boston bomber took away the right to vote from his victims, right? This is where Bernie and the Democratic Party is. So let's go over right to vote in the Constitution.
Okay, Article 1, Section 2 talks about who can vote. That was changed with Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. Section 2 of the 14th Amendment is very important because there was no such thing as a citizenship. That word was not even done until the 14th Amendment in 1866. The 14th Amendment was just to make the Civil Rights Amendment actually become codified in the Constitution. So there's actually criteria on who can vote. And it's very important because in Article 1, Section 4 is clear on who can vote and who controls the vote. And I want to read this because when we have all these federal judges changing lines and on districts, understand that's unconstitutional. Because it says right here, Article 4, Section 4, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislators thereof.
Well, it seems pretty clear. If they wanted to draw a circle around a house, they could legally do it.
They could do that. But the Congress may at times, but Congress may at any time by law make or alter the regulations, except as to the places of choosing the senators. Now, that's changed in the 17th Amendment because now senators are voted by populace.
Right.
So Congress can make, not judicial judges. This is important. So if Congress makes a law on how you do a district or how the things vote, or all that kind of stuff, that is prescribed by Congress. And that's why it's important to understand in a republic, Bernie, we have a idea of federalism where we decentralize power, and each of these legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch have different functions, but with the same mission, protect the inalienable rights of the individual. So they can't cross cover. So if Congress should make different rules, then they must uphold it. But legislative branch, so that's why I want to hear these federal judges changing or rechanging districts or rechanging elections. That's unconstitutional in of itself. But Article 4.
Can I ask, where does it, maybe you don't know. You know everything. I'd be surprised if you don't. Does that come from like the Civil Rights Act and that whole era where they decided that, and I think that a lot of this is done because of the way the districts are drawn, gerrymandering, and whether one race is being shut out of a district and therefore cannot, I guess, legitimately win an office?
Well, it's a couple things, Bill. First off is, it's not to be nerdy on this, but Spirits of Law, written by Montesquieu in 1720, was talking about how you divide a republic, a federal government. And he thought a republic should be small, like Switzerland, small with cantons. And Madison was talking about, no, we could actually apply that to a country of 3 million people. Remember how big that was? 3 million people. But they could do that because he believed that the geography, the religious differences, diversity of America, you'd never have one or two major parties. You'd always have geographical and diversity within this, so there'd be no majorities.
Which would be true in his time.
Exactly. And by doing that, they decided that, okay, for every one representative for the people of each state, there'd be 30,000 people. Then in 1911, they passed a law, Congress passed in a law, which Constitution they can do, but not to this. It eliminated republicanism because what it did is now they said, we're going to keep the number in the House at 435. So now instead of every one person representing 30,000 people, one person represents 700,000 people. So how many people could literally talk to the representative? It's
almost
nobody.
It's
exactly.
so small.
Let alone influence them. So when you talk about that is when you follow the Constitution here, this is what, when again, I want to focus on this really clearly because when you have Republicans and Democrats fighting over these districts, understand what it says. The times and places and manner of holding elections for senators, representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislators of the state, period. But Congress, not judicial branch, not executive branch, not even state legislators, okay, other than when they make their plan, but to change it, understand at the federal level. But if the Congress may at time make a law or alter the regulations except to the places of choosing the senators, because the senators always choose by the state legislators until the 17th Amendment in 1913, which ruined republicanism, reproved the whole idea of the federal republic. So, Bill, what's important here is to understand that judicial branch, executive branch has no power in this. Now we choose. So it is an election. So now you have an election. So in the 14th Amendment, back to your civil rights aspect of that, the 14th Amendment declared the whole purpose of the 14th Amendment was to give, a bad word, to acknowledge that African Americans are human beings. Just acknowledge it, not grant them freedom, but to acknowledge it.
Right.
Life, liberty, and property. And that was the first time the word citizen came because before that, you were a citizen of North Carolina. You're a citizen of Virginia, with all the rights in every of the 13 states that you went to.
Sure.
But naturalization, not citizenship, naturalization was the federal government's rule. Well, more specifically, Congress's power. Right? So now the 14th Amendment was the very first time that the word citizenship came together. So in section 2 of that, it says this: representatives shall be appointed among the several states according to their receptive numbers, accounting the whole number. This is the electoral college part of it. You measure the people of it says this, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote by any election for the choice of electors of president, vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive judicial officers of each state, or the members of legislation thereof, is denied to any male inhabitants of such state being 21 years of age, okay, Bernie, listen to this, and citizens of the United States, first time it's been mentioned, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crimes, the basis of representatives thereof shall be reduced to the proportion of the number of such male citizens shall bear the whole number of the male citizens. So, a terrorist, a bombing would be rebellion or a crime.
Yes, I would say so.
So it's not even Congress has to make a law; it's in the Constitution and the famous 14th Amendment that that all these progressives want to use to make everything so-called equal and take away the real meaning of what it's about.
Well, yeah, they use that for illegal immigrants and all of that. So to get to be clear now, you have the Democratic Party in general does support this. The party does.
Yes, sir.
As far as allowing felons to vote. Now, it was up until this point, at least I thought so, those who had done their time, paid their dues, and then were released from prison. Mm-hmm. This is a whole other matter altogether. First off, they're still in prison. Can you imagine what that'd be like for a fair vote with a guard, with a billy club over the? I mean, I can't even imagine this. Why do you suppose they're doing this?
Bill,
they know it's not legal.
Exactly, Bill. The whole idea is the question is, can they control the votes? Is there obviously there's fraud in voting, and the more they could actually control more votes, the more things they can detail. You know, the problem here, Bill, is this whole idea of saying, you know, one person, one vote. Understand, we are, I know I'm talking against the wall here, but we are a federal republic. And this is, we talked about last week, the progressive era, the Woodrow Wilsons, the Teddy Roosevelts, and the Hillary Clintons and the Bernie Sanders today, and in our parties, the rhinos, you know, the Tillises, those people, they hate the constraints of the Constitution. It constrains them from crossing the aisle. It restrains them from nationalized health. Look at Finland. You have Beto, you have Bernie Sanders. All these people want a one-party system. Finland, the government just collapsed last week because they could not fund, not the military, not education, not all that stuff. They could not fund universal health care. So the government literally collapsed. Everybody in the legislature resigned. The prime minister resigned. There is literally no government in Finland now. They're recouping all that stuff because they could not fund this. And when I hear about, well, how about Sweden? Sweden do the same thing. And don't forget, if Sweden was a state, it'd be the 51st richest state. Therefore, the first poorest state, poorer than Puerto Rico. Okay.
Wow.
So when you hear these
they're a big welfare state. They oftentimes refer to them as a socialist state. And we want to be like Sweden, but they're really not. I mean, they have economic freedom. But they're just a big welfare state. A big welfare state,
and that all welfare state means is the redistribution of wealth. Now, the question again, Bill, goes back to economics. If you have I know it sounds like repetitive, but if you have a currency that's non-fiat, I mean it's bound by the gold standard. You could only print as much money as you can back it up by gold, period. That's why it's a gold standard. So with that, you cannot bribe people. You cannot print money for welfare or fund the Export-Import Bank and the big companies. Right. So the answer is you can only do warfare and welfare based other than taxing the people. And that's when they're going to say, no more. We're not going to tax me anymore. But Bill, with this printing machine that produces, you know, quantitative easing every quarter with trillions of dollars in unfunded liabilities, it doesn't matter. The system rolls until it's going to hit the fan eventually.
Well, absolutely. Well, you have the Democratic Party and you have Republicans that are, but I'm talking about the candidates. I don't know how many there are now. There's like 10, 13 of them.
No, I think it's like 22, Bill.
Are there 22?
Yeah.
Well, 22 of them. They all seem to be dancing to the same tune, and that is bribing those voters. You know, you have Elizabeth Warren, the Native American in the race, who is talking about free education. Well, none of this is free. This is all dollars. And you know, the funny thing about it is they'll try to argue that it makes sense because instead of that student paying $200. We're depriving that from the private sector. They'd have more disposable income and we would prosper. But they got to get the money somewhere. It's coming from somebody in the private sector. Why are we so completely ignorant of the obvious?
Because they play against our human nature. We want more than somebody else. Or we don't want somebody to succeed. They play the psychological. There's a great book in 1923 called Propaganda by Bernays, who, by the way, his uncle was Freud. I mean, Bill, they play us like a fine-tuned instrument. They know exactly what to do. I mean, Biden's talk. He's running because of Charlottesville. That's why he's running. Right. He has to do something.
Yes.
So what did he do when African American teenagers were 70% were unemployed? When he was vice president, what did he do?
He didn't care.
He didn't care. He's a bunch of garbage. You know, and he said
those being shot in the streets.
And interesting thing that he says, I did not ask for President Obama's endorsement.
Yeah, well,
because he don't want to give it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So all this kind of thing, Bill. You have these people, these great. Oh, this guy, the Bugatti guy from out in Indiana, the mayor. The CNN said, he suddenly became a mainstream candidate. He won't last another week.
No.
Okay, it's what the media wants. When they talk about being a fine, what I'm saying about they're playing this, they want to divide us, number one, and they want to promise us with these things. 5 companies run 95% of the media.
Right.
So we have to understand this whole perspective, Bill. But we understand all they believe the progressives. That's why the attack of Christianity, the attack of Catholicism, the attack of a God. You are a Looney Tune or an idiot if you believe in a creator. But yet, you look back at Bastia or Madison or Jefferson. I'm not saying they're all believers in the sense they're true, but they believe in the creator. And they believe there's a higher cause. And what these progressives want is, as you say in their own words, replace the creator, replace God with a government. And they run the government. So as Teddy Roosevelt said, we'll dictate how much money you can make. We'll decide what your income is because we're wiser than you. That's a complete racist thought process that they could superior because they have their Anglo-Saxon hierarchy.
Well, it is, but yet I'm just going to throw here's a headline.
Good.
Handshakes could be banned under new workplace rules to avoid expensive sexual harassment claims. All right. University hosts and this is Wake Forest, hosts no whites allowed faculty and staff listening sessions to promote inclusivity. Now, I could go on. This is in the news every day, and this is what our kids are being taught in college. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't go to college. I think they get a much better education almost anywhere else. But in any case, this is the progressive era. We were talking about this the other day, and in fact, I may come up with Notre Dame burning. Imagine these people. They worked to build this church. They wouldn't even see the finished product because they believed in God and what they were doing. We're not that way today at all. We don't build big things, grand things, important things. We're not even cutting-edge science anymore in this country.
No, Bill, what happens is we just get to this position where if you start thinking that way, you're a complete idiot. I'm going to read a quote here because this is understanding. These are the principles. Again, our Constitution, I want to be very clear on this. Our Constitution is a secular government. I'm very clear on that. It's a secular document, but in it acknowledges the creator. In fact, I said many times, Ben Franklin, the most famous man in Western civilization at the time, he wrote the word self-evident. We are endowed by a creator. It's self-evident, okay? Patrick Henry, bad men cannot make good citizens. It is when people forget God that tyrants forge their chains. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this over and over, now Patrick Henry's not preaching, but he was the governor. He was so strong as a governor, he made Madison not become a senator. They were enemies. He was enemies of Jefferson. I mean, he was more powerful than anybody in that state. But again, he lived his principles. That was the idea behind this. So are we perfect? No, I'm not saying he's a perfect man. But again, forget God. You had John Adams, who was more of a universalist, but said, without morality and God, one cannot have a republic. So they base this upon you and I reading, studying, the golden rule: treat God, have a creator, and treat each other as we want to be treated. That was the principle. But now we know in a democracy, it's how many people get on your side to do what? To redistribute the wealth that the government collects by force. That's all this is about, Bill.
Well, the other thing that's troubling to me too is the fact that what we've created is a society that no longer holds itself responsible. There was another story where in California, which is not a surprise, they're no longer going to suspend kids who disrespect their teachers. They're just not going to do it. And the reason for this, and this began under the Obama administration, where they took a study and took part of the study, and it was a disproportionate number of African Americans who were being suspended. Not that they didn't commit the act that required suspension, but now all public schools, including California, are saying, well, we're not going to discipline them anymore. So this is the society we've created with liberalism, progressivism. This is playing out before our eyes, I think, today, Doctor. We are not a moral people, and we have idiots, I don't know how they trust themselves, walking around making decisions on our behalf, and we applaud them.
Well, this is the problem, Bill, with allowing the federal government to have functions that are not constitutional. If California wanted to have that kind of school system, allow them to.
Yes.
If North Carolina says no, we can do it our way. See, a smart state, educational-wise, the 50 laboratories of republicanism would not make a monopoly of education paid at the taxpayer's behest under force. They would compete. Teachers would be paid more money. The product would be so much superior. That's why homeschool and private schools are killing public schools on the standardized test that they've been preparing for, Bill. Here's what bothers me is we've just capitulated and we bowed to the power of the government at state level and the federal level. And that, to me, is we'll talk about more of that after the break. But, Bill, it's very frustrating to me.
Well, it is. We're coming up this week, Wednesday. All the teachers are going to be out in red shirts, I think appropriately dressed, complaining and whining once again for something that they don't deserve, in my humble opinion.
Red shirts on May 1st. Yes. Let that sink in.
That tells you everything you need to know about the public education system. In any case, it says something about our society that we're willing to accept a false explanation for bad behavior. And this is true across the board. I think everybody knows, but everybody's afraid to say it and basically say the king has no clothes. You see that changing? I don't see that changing in the near future.
No.
I got another minute. You got to go further than that.
No, but Bill, but seriously, buddy, I get more. Part of me, Bill, is I'm ready to. You know what? After the break, I want to tell you about a TV show.
Right.
That I maybe get to that position now that I may be to a point of I'll still talk, but you know what? You guys want to fight? Go fight.
All right. Well. That doesn't sound like entirely good news. When we come back, we'll continue. We'll find out what the doctor has in mind there. Also, of course, President Trump is still on the hot seat. Not a surprise. The Democrats were going to give up that fight. Is he guilty of obstruction of justice? Supporters say no. Democrats say yes. But even a judge who would normally be in the conservative circle thinks he might be. Well, we'll get the doctor's perspective on that as well. Your American Experiment is brought to you by Metagenics. Awesome stuff, natural stuff, prevents you from getting sick, right? But at the same time, if you have some ailments, it takes care of you too. Tell me about this,
Supplementation, Bill, and pure vitamins are not optional. Your body needs vitamins. Low vitamin B12, pernicious anemia. Low iodine, thyroid disease. I go over and over and over again. The problem is our topsoil has been destroyed. We're not getting in our food. We don't have we have Roundup now genetically modified into the DNA of the plants. It's destroying us. Our body's meant to thrive, not survive, but it's adaptable enough to survive. But given it the right supplementation, Bill, natural vitamins are key. And in Metagenics, I'm very happy with my youth history using them. I've used them for about 5-6 years now. Please do your research. But Metagenics, METAGENCIS.com, the code word CARBHRT, CARBHRT. Put that in that thing and look around all the samples. I recommend vitamin D, probiotics, fish oil. You need these supplementation, but do your research. But please check it out.
All right, great. We'll be back with Your American Experiment. Stick around. Welcome back to Your American Experiment, brought to you by the Youth Institute. You want to feel 20 years younger? No, it's not just a slogan. I mean, really, feel 20 years younger. Go to the website, youthinstitutebhrt.com, and Metagenics. And Doctor, before the break, you were mentioning something that didn't sound like good news for people who are huge fans of yours. What were you talking about? Have we got you to the point where you just think it's just, hopeless?
Well, you look at the crap over and over and over again. And then we got to defend, and we're going to defend, I think, President Trump in a minute. But I'm tired of defending these things. I just wish we had a vote for people who are constitutional and let the chips fall where they may. But that being said, the TV show Lost about 10 years ago, right? You had the people and the others. Always fighting. And there was a scene where the married couple, an older married couple, African American woman and a white male, which I thought was beautiful. It's just they're a man and woman, and they're married, and they're trying to gather them up to go, come fight with us. And they said, you know what? We're done. We're done. At the end of the day, you're gonna blow all each other up, and does it really matter? I'm gonna enjoy my husband. I'm gonna enjoy my wife until you guys ruin this place. Because you think about it, they rile us up. There are times you'll turn news off for a couple of weeks, couple months, and you go back, nothing changes.
Yes.
And I believe that's sort of a scam because I believe things are changing. I believe we did a show on your show on the 2012 NDA that I said, you believe McCain supported that with Burr, that literally signed a bill that in 10 years they'll have 30,000 drones over America. Never happened, Greg. You're crazy. Never happened.
Yeah.
It got funded and it's there.
Sure.
You have Senator Paul fighting that Verizon cannot give our phone bill, our phone information to the government. Now it's standard of care. We really are being spied on. Drive by and look at the new light poles. Just look at the microphones there. Look at the cameras there.
Yeah.
We're having now 15 major airports going to use face recognition for your safety. I'm going to be a little blunt here. The chance of an American dying in a terrorist attack is less than being stung and dying by a bee.
That does put it into perspective.
Okay.
And yet this is used to
scare the crap out of us.
Yes. And in the process, take our liberty away.
Ron Paul talked about that. True freedom would be defending liberty, not being scared of being this defense. Because with your liberty, you could defend yourself. Washington's beautiful example was Switzerland. In Switzerland, in the cantons, the various republics, it was mandatory that every male and female be armed. Okay? It still is to this day. Think of why they're neutral. Yes, they control their gold, their finance, their currency's backed by gold, and every person's armed. They literally neighbored Nazi Germany.
Right.
And were not invaded.
That's right.
Okay? Just let that sink in. And that was Washington's blueprint for what he thought would be over here. In fact, he said our independence and freedom is not based on owning firearms, but having enough ammunition. Madison said, what makes America so special is the people, the government wants the people armed. Why, Greg? Why is that so important? Because the first law of natural law, the first law is self-defense. The first inalienable right is life. One cannot protect that if one is a victim. Jefferson said, those who turn their rifles into plowshares will be working for those who did not.
That's correct. You know, the Democrats, I think it's Kamala Harris, who is one of the people running, said if Congress, she was very forceful, gave you that look that you never want to get from a wife, that if they don't do their job by executive order, she's going to come up with some reasonable gun laws. And I think we know what reasonable means. Or maybe we can ask Tom Tillis. He also believes in reasonable gun laws. But we've been over this so much. And I understand the frustration because I'm with you on this. But if someone's not out there saying, hey, listen, you ought to read this, they have no right to do any of this.
Yeah, they're
only going to continue to pursue it.
But we have a mixed message in the media. You get movies like the Hunger Game books and Hunger Game movies. It was about a totalitarian system that sacrificed children. Right?
Yes.
You had the Avengers movies. You had one of them. I think it's called Civil War. We had a bunch of them of the characters say led by Captain America. No, we're not fighting for the American government. We're fighting for liberty. And you had Tony Stark, the bigger military company, saying, no. Understand, people got to control us. If we can't be controlled, then it'd be a problem. And Captain America said, no, I'll control myself. Yes. See, so we see that mixed marriage, and that's by Disney Company, and you know how they feel. So I'm just torn, Bill. I just think it's always a game because back over here, they really are. Why does the government know your bank account? Why do they control your labor? Why do they? And we don't trust them to run anything, but yet we allow them to dictate what medicines go in our body. Forceful vaccinations. Okay, how you feel about it? But
do you see they gave out a few tickets up in New York?
Oh my God!
For people who were not vaccinated.
Oh, UCLA and Cal State LA are going to quarantine kids who cannot prove they've been vaccinated.
And yet, I saw the article you sent, and I know we've talked about this, so we don't have to spend time on it.
But that's what's happening in the background.
But in the background, you have this outbreak of mumps, which is 10 times, 100 times more than the measles outbreak. It's getting absolutely no press.
Let's go over a couple things. You had Biden talk about the measles outbreak is the most important outbreak and contagious in history.
The guy is nuts.
Okay, you get measles naturally, like we all did as old people. You're immune for life and proven less cancer. Bingo. It's such a. Here's the reason why it's a big deal now, because most of those measles are about 98% already vaccinated.
Isn't that something?
So those are getting it, prove it doesn't work. Now the mumps one's an ass kicker, Bill, because you get mumps as a little kid. You now are immune from mumps, and you just go through a fever and you're done. There's a thing called archiitis, which means the testicles inflame. You get it as a kid, there's no sperm production. It doesn't matter. You get through it, you still have all your babies.
Right.
But we're having an epidemic, as you talked about in the mumps, with all our navies off, all our Navy men off
even
the
beyond that. It was like 12,000 this past year.
And that's because they took a childhood disease that's actually beneficial by nature to protect us. Instead of getting it at 5 years of age, you get it at 25 years of age.
And that's because the vaccines are failing.
Because the vaccines don't work and they block the immune system that would do it naturally. So now you're going to get it in the future when you are now 50 to 60%, even higher rates show of sterility if you get them as an adult.
See, now we're hearing nonstop coverage of the measles. I think in the article they said a total of 500 people out of a country of 320 million. That's nothing. I can't even figure out that percentage. It's very, very tiny. And yet the mumps are, I think it was 12,000. I might be wrong.
It was
12,000. And this is because the pharmaceutical company, because they have some whistleblowers, have said the MMR and the mumps, they fudged the data on it. So, but we're not hearing anything.
Never.
Now, there was a time I would have thought, and maybe I'm wrong, that there were investigative reporters. 60 Minutes would be all over something like that. You remember 60 Minutes back in the day?
They've actually pulled a 60-minute video that talked about the DTaP vaccination being the culprit for all this in the 1980s. Yes, sir.
So see where we're at.
See
where we're at today.
That's what's happening in the background. Trump, Biden, this, that. Over here, gender, this, all this is occurring. But over here, they keep, Bill.
Now, they can't be unaware of this.
No, Bill. That's
the people at the CDC can't be unaware of this.
Okay, I know this before, but I want to go over this again. Dr. Thompson at the CDC today. He's there today. He was the lead author on the 2004 MMR vaccine paper that said the MMR vaccine, that's measles, mumps, rubella, does not cause autism. The lead author. In 2014, he went public, said he lied. It increased its 800% in African-American boys, 600% in Caucasian boys, and 2 times in girls. Not a word.
Well, that's the point. And I know we've talked about vaccines.
Keep talking.
Every week. Okay?
This one keeps coming back. But the political stuff doesn't keep me coming back every week, Bill.
But this impacts people, real people, everyday people. What Trump does or what Biden does will eventually trickle down in some fashion. But these are people whose very health is at stake. And all of this is in a country. I've said this to you before, and I probably to the audience. I said, when I was a kid in school and we were looking at history, I was scared to death of the Soviet Union. I mean, they'd come at night and take you away. You'd never be seen again.
Yep.
You had a guy who would dictate this, that, and the other thing. You maybe you got food, maybe you didn't get food. There was Pravda. Right? I don't see any difference. Although we have full grocery stores. Other than that, we're the Soviet Union. They can take you away. They can kill you. They can pretty much do whatever they damn well please with you, and they can destroy you if you speak up. And you're just nodding your head. Say something, and otherwise people are going to say, "Well,
Bill,
LuMaye's nuts."
If objectively looking at what you just said, and you looked objectively, the answer is yes. We saw before, 5 companies control 98% of the media. They want to stop the internet. If you have a dissident view, you can't sell books on Amazon anymore if you have a view that they don't agree with. Now, I have no problem with that in one respect, because Amazon's a private company.
Right.
But understand the progressives, the atheists of the world, and understand it's a worldview, Bill. It's a humanist view, which you're God, a believer in a creator. That's a division. If you look at everything, that's the division.
Right.
Okay. So when you have Franklin Graham say, what he said about, gosh, I wish I pronounced his name. It's Bigget. He said, that guy says, well, my view of Christianity is this. Franklin's saying, I don't have a view of Christianity. Here's what the Bible says. Yes. See, that to me is such a, it's not what you think. Like when I ran for Congress, it's not to equate, the Constitution with Scripture, but I'm not making things up. When it says the state legislators decide when you vote, unless Congress makes a law, that's what it says. That means there's no executive, there's no judicial area. Bye, see you later. What bothers me, Bill, is we have constitutional answers for all of these issues, for all of them. But the moment you bring them up, it just...
Well, you're laughed at. You're called a nerd. It's an old document, and it's unfortunate. And unfortunately, we have a public education system that we just don't spend time teaching our children. And, quite honestly, as parents as well, we don't spend the necessary time. And obviously, it seems clear that we've fallen away from just being a moral people. And without that morality, I think we find ourselves in a position where, good, evils, it's pretty clear. It's not a political question, is it? Good, bad, right, wrong. There's no gray area there. And yet, here we are today. When I'm online and getting feedback from people, and they seem freer there, the other side, the liberal side, they still believe that Donald Trump was sided with Russia. Hillary Clinton wants him thrown in jail, and they believe it's going to come anytime. Now it's up to Congress. Now that, to me, is insanity. On the other side, you can find some of that too. But I'm just saying, if that's where you are in America today, you really don't care about facts. You care about being right.
You don't. But a couple things. Since Hillary brought that up, that's very intriguing. A couple years ago, we had Hillary should be thrown in jail.
Yes.
Now Trump should be thrown in jail.
Yes.
The only difference is Mueller, who's no Trump friend, spent 2 years investigating
$35 million
and said nothing. And he went out to say, I'm going to prove this.
Right.
He's no friend of President Trump. He said, dang, there's nothing. Now, in that, we'll go about obstruction later.
Yes.
Because again, sometimes there's no crime committed, but you may obstruct because you said the wrong thing during this bad investigation. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, we got to get into that.
Then back to Hillary, though.
Yeah.
Hillary, as First Lady, 3,000 FBI documents in her residency in the West Wing. Nothing. What's his name? President Nixon had one FBI file. He was impeached, but resigned from office because he was going to be impeached.
People then.
Okay. Again, so my thing is you have a woman who should truly be in jail.
Right.
Saying this. That's why, to me, that's a soap opera. That is, they don't, because in the back, what are they both doing? If Hillary Clinton was president, we'd be in all these wars. Candidate Trump said, why are we still there? President Trump, we're still there.
Right.
And why is that war's going on? War's going on because of the poppies in Afghanistan, the lithium in Afghanistan, the oil in Iraq. Now we're actually
the war machine.
Now we're sending our best and brightest to Africa, Chad, Niger, all day long. You ever hear that? Never, Bill. No. Never. So the question is this. So I know I sound as a hypocrite here, but we have answers. Do I believe they're going to come to fruition, that liberty is going to reign? Eventually. I believe at the end of the day, history's shown it's going to come. I hope by my great-great-grandkids.
Yeah, it's
okay?
going to take a while.
Okay,
that's going to take something awfully bad.
Yeah, and that's, to me, sad, because we really have to lose almost everything to recoup it. And that's what's bothered the crud out of me, because that's why I believe we got to go back to the progressive era. We got to look at the crux of when this happened. And the very first progressive president, I know, if I run for office, it was Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Progressive income tax, high income tax, centralization.
Those at Lincoln Day dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Republicans.
and again, it's not being. I'm not here to hammer that, but we went from a true federal republic to a centralized government, and I don't want to argue over what it was for. I love the abomination of slavery's gone. Love it, love it, love it. I wish it went away. The Declaration of Independence, like Jefferson wanted originally, but it was money. It was not what they talk about. And you look at the gutlessness of Lincoln during the Emancipation Proclamation just freed slaves in in union-controlled southern states.
Right.
It's in nothing in Ohio or Virginia. Or Indiana or New York.
Yes.
Okay, so that bothers me. The lack of knowledge of history is very, very
Well,
frustrating.
see, and that we've talked about this, and that it all comes down to we've done a real disservice for those Americans who really need to have that background, that education.
Well, Bill, I think that's probably our job here. I really
Well, it
believe what
is,
we do
yes.
once a week is we don't worry about if you're going to run or I'm going to run for office. We don't worry about what people are going to say. Let's just do this. And the cool thing about it is we've offered people to come debate us live anytime.
Right.
You know, come here, sit at our studio, and we'll debate you on anything. I would love to hear, I want to hear why the federal government is superior in education. How is it better education in healthcare? I want to see the things all you great progressives think it does, because the empirical data destroys you.
Well, that's where, what's her name? OAC came out and said the vet VA was superb care and don't fix what isn't broken or something like that. This is the IQ level we have of people in Washington calling
Let's stop for a
the
second.
shots.
Let's stop for AOC for a moment. Wears $5,000-$6,000 dresses, raised in Westchester County, is a hero of the downtrodden. How many first-term Congress people who've been there less than a month, even before she was actually there,
Yes.
have this position? So the question is, who's backing her?
Who's paying the tab? And she's living quite well. You're right. I do want to get to Donald Trump and the obstruction of justice, because I really do want to understand this. Now, Judge Napolitano, who I'm
Stop for a second. Judge Napolitano.
He's I'm a
Fox
huge fan.
News,
Yep.
liberty lover,
Yeah.
pure libertarian, was literally interviewed by Donald Trump for Supreme Court, who became his advisor for men or women to place on the Supreme Court.
Right.
So this is not a man who is going to show you any biasness.
No.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of this guy. This
Right.
is why I think so highly of him. He has come out, he's written an article, and because we don't have a ton of time, it basically says, yeah, Donald Trump could be guilty of obstruction. And we can get into some of the particulars, but again, you mentioned it earlier. You had Mueller, a special investigator. We know what got him into that position to begin with. And then clearly he must have known almost from the onset there was no evidence to support the investigation. So for 2 years, you have a crime that never happened, but it did ensnare an awful lot of people, in most cases, just not being forthcoming or honest or forgetting something on these processes type deals. That's what it is. So now you got Donald Trump, and he may have said some things. Fire that guy. Fire that guy. Get rid of it. Can you imagine? But there's no crime. How can there possibly be obstruction is my question.
What did Napolitano say?
Well, he said it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you obstruct getting to the truth, but the truth was already known.
The problem is it's just the act of doing that. I know that's the hard part, because if there was no investigation, there'd be no obstruction. That's the problem I have. That's why I agree with Napolitano. At the same time, it's frustrating because, again, anybody could be put in that position.
But see, he's and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. He's taking the position. He's read the Mueller's report.
Oh, yes, much more. I never have.
And he's believed every word in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's taking that position. You hear Donald Trump say, no, that's a lie. That never happened. So he's assuming, I guess, that in the report that's truthful and honest, and there's proof for that, in which case then he said, well, yeah,
I know.
if you read the law.
But problem is again, it's how many presidents could have been impeached?
Almost, you go
Yes.
back.
Okay. I mean, it's insanity, right? So the answer is, but we don't hold this kind of credibility anymore. But it goes back to the progressive era. We elect a king every 4 years. So the people that lose try to hammer that king every 4 years. The ones that won think he's the best thing in the whole world. You could hear, look at ESPN. ESPN has been destroyed because of their biasness for President Obama. Yeah. But forget economy destroyed. Forget that the Nobel Prize winner dropped more bombs and more war escalation than George W.
And
Bush.
signed a law that executed American citizens.
4 that we know of outside of our territories that he executed with no judge or jury. And the Constitution says treason is in a public court with 2 witnesses.
Yes.
So
that's certainly, and let's not forget Obamacare.
Yep.
Unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. So this kind of stuff is like, oh, it depends what they want to do. That's why who's ever in power is going to be hammered by those out of power. And what happens is we're the ones getting screwed.
Yeah, I see the Democrats are very good at it, though. The Republicans less so, and maybe it's because they tend to agree with Democrats more
I
than
believe they believe in the Hegelianism aspect. They believe that, again, look at the stalwarts of the Republican Party that people honor, the Teddy Roosevelts of the day. He says literally, Anglo-Saxon superior. Read his words on racism will blow your mind. He believes that the government to dictate your income. And this is the Republican stalwart.
Yes.
That's the hypocrisy of this. That's why with not knowing history, we are screwed. And our battle is the government wants to control information from YouTube, internet, TV, books, publications. All of them are controlled. Now, you go back and read the white papers of the CFR, the white papers of the Carnegie Nelson and the Rockefeller Foundations, the Ford Foundation. You read those things. They say, let's control college. Let's control church. Let's control publishing. Let's control. They've said it.
Yes.
And this is the dream of they wanted. They want the elites. They want the plebes, and we're the plebes.
How long? Socialists can be a millionaire, like Bernie Sanders, and the rest of us, I guess we'll have to settle for equal misery. You know, one of the things I thought Obama, he wanted a transformative government. Right. One of the most destructive things I think he did, and he did a lot, was the destruction of due process. Under his 8 years and the sides he took with against the police and a lot of other things, using studies to call racism where racism did not exist. Basically, the trial took place before there was a trial and a jury.
Yes.
So people are now convicted, right?
100%.
Before Michael Jackson's name's coming off the auditorium, man, because there was a movie. We're a society now, we want to hang them in public and forget that jury and that whole judge thing.
We want star chambers, Bill, and that's what they want. Okay, let's leave it with an optimistic thing here, Bill.
Okay, please.
I still believe a revolution of ideas can happen overnight. When the moment an individual says no to tyranny, that means be a lot of people victimized. They'll lose their jobs. Their credibility. I understand that. I'm part of that.
Take a brave individual to do that.
Bill, I mean, your job's been hurt doing this. I know it. We've been through it, you and I together. So the answer is, will that happen? That's why I think multiple generations from now we might, but we have to start now. And therefore, I think the optimism part is we just say no. And once we do that, Bill, I think that could be a pebble that causes a wave that may cause a change. I don't think we'll see it. Okay, I'm going to be clear on that. But I believe we should do it. And that's what I'm going to be doing.
Well, and I appreciate it more than you know. And I hope that those who watch and listen will pass along the information we give them every Sunday. And hopefully we'll have more opportunities to do so. And then talk to your kids, man. Schools aren't going to do it for you. And it's not just about your history. It's about being moral. And why that's so important. Well, Your American Experiment is brought to you by the Youth Institute. I think it's the most awesome thing on planet Earth. I have a 3-year-old. I'm going to be 4 years. I can't believe that. 4 years old, and I'm keeping up, man. I'm keeping up. There's no way I could do that if I just 65 years old and did not have hormone replacement therapy. Because as you age and a lot of other reasons, you lose these hormones, and it affects every aspect of your life, your energy, your mind, your libido, just your overall health. And it goes for men and women. The Youth Institute with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, the safest and easiest thing you can do, will change your life. And when I say you'll feel 20 years younger, I mean it. Find out for yourself. Go to the website right now, youthinstitutebhrt.com. All the information's there. Get in to see this guy for a consultation. He'll answer all your questions, and then go ahead. Change your life. You will enjoy it. You will. And we'll be back next week, Doctor. As always, I appreciate everything you do.
Bill, to you, same way.
All right, man. Well, have a good week, and we'll be back next Sunday.
And our producer, Mike.
Mike. He's smiling tonight. That's good. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.